Time for a reality check. Let's be honest, do you really understand your auto policy? In today's Know Your Rights segment, attorney Catherine Stone from Barbas Law Firm is here to tell us why you need to make sure that you do understand it. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us today. And I am very excited about this segment because I feel like I always have questions for an attorney about auto accidents or what if, and this is going to be the perfect segment for our viewers to ask you those kind of questions.
Yeah, as I was explaining earlier, a lot of times one of the first things that happens after the client comes in is we need to know what kind of insurance coverage both our client has and that the at-fault driver has. And so a lot of times people come in and tell me they have full coverage when in fact I look at their auto policy and it doesn't cover every scenario, and that to me that's full coverage. So it's very important to understand what your auto policy covers for you.
I was going to say it's one of those things to check today to make sure, just in case you are involved in an accident, and when the accident happens, of course, medical care first, but then get in touch with you and then you can break down what some of those things may be, or is that something we should even do before the accident? Because you're throwing out words and I'm like, do I have that? Do I not have that?
Well, and that's why I thought it would be a good topic is before you even get into the accident. Hopefully you don't, but everyone needs to understand what their policy covers. And a lot of times people are just going to their insurance agent and they want the cheapest auto policy. And they don't really understand in what scenario their policy is going to cover them for.
Well, I know when I moved to Florida, I'd always heard, horror stories of how expensive my auto insurance was going to be, and it was definitely more than what I've paid in previous states. So not necessarily the smartest thing to go always the cheapest. Do you have any tips of what people can be able to do to make sure that they are protected and in a good scenario?
Well, I would say sit down with your insurance agent and go through each and every section of your policy and make sure that you have reviewed that with your agent and understand what that is for. Every driver in the state of Florida is required to have PIP insurance.
Yeah, what is that?
PIP insurance is personal injury protection. Okay. And basically it covers up to $10,000 worth of medical benefits or lost wages as a result of an auto accident. It doesn't have to be your fault. It could be your fault. Okay. You're still entitled to that coverage. There's certain situations where that coverage may be lowered down to a $2,500 limit, but that's something that can be discussed later.
I was going to say we've got plenty more segments coming up, but we just want to get people familiar with their auto policy and not just keep it in the drawer, not even open up the envelope, which I kind of am guilty of.
And then the other thing that we always look at is if you are involved in an auto accident and someone else caused the accident, we need to look at that other person's policy to determine whether or not they have bodily injury coverage, which is what's going to be paying for your medical expenses or your loss in wages. And you would be surprised, bodily injury coverage is not a requirement in the state of Florida. So if someone causes your accident and they don't have bodily injury, then the next step is we look at either what we call a med pay portion on your policy or a underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage on your policy. That's why it's very important that you know what your policy covers and doesn't cover.
Is that where you get into the no fault state of Florida? And again, we're talking about the higher rates. Is that where that comes in?
That's the PIP part.
Okay.
The personal injury protection is going to cover up to $10,000 whether or not you've caused the accident or not.
Okay, that's where that comes in.
That's where the no fault comes into play. Yes.
Okay, but insured motorists still need to know what they have and find the best case for them.
Correct, yes. And make sure you just understand what your policy covers, and then also understanding if someone does hit you, what their policy would cover for you.
Okay, and from then an attorney point of view, obviously we're doing a great job of breaking it down. From an attorney point of view, giving the tips that they can help now. But again, we got to talk about this segment. If people have questions about their policy or how to get you involved to protect them.
Well, we have created on our website, www.barbaslaw.com, we have created a special page for you to be able to go to and submit your questions, any legal questions, and we're going to start answering some of those questions on each segment. And so the website is www.barbaslaw.com/know your rights.